Picture this. You open your mail and you realize your annual property tax just jumped from $15,000 to a staggering $90,000. No way, right? Well, that actually happened to one homeowner in Pompano Beach recently after a major renovation totally reset their assessment. It's a massive affordability shock, and it perfectly highlights the incredibly high stakes of Florida property taxes right now. But here's the good news. Fighting back can be incredibly lucrative, and successful appeals are saving homeowners hundreds, sometimes literally thousands of dollars every single year. So, let's get right into it. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to completely demystify the Florida property tax system and equip you with the exact, actionable steps you need to potentially appeal your assessment and shrink that tax burden. Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover Florida property taxes explained, how assessments actually work, reasons to file an appeal, a step-by-step VAB appeal guide, tools to help you win, and finally, some pro tips for appeal success. All right, Section 1, Florida property taxes explained. Let's start with the absolute fundamentals of what these assessments are and why they matter so much to your bottom line. Okay, so the most crucial concept to wrap your head around here is that Florida operates on a two-roll system. On one side, you have the just value. That is basically the property appraiser's estimate of what your home would actually sell for on the open market. But then you have the assessed value. This is the capped value that actually dictates your final tax bill. Understanding the difference between these two numbers is the absolute secret to knowing if an appeal is even worth your time. And the reason there's a difference between those two numbers is all thanks to the Save Our Homes constitutional amendment. If you've got a homesteaded property, this cap limits your assessed value's growth to just 3% a year, or the inflation rate, whichever's lower. Over time, especially if you live in a hot real estate market, this creates a massive protective cushion. Your home's market value might shoot up to the moon, but your assessed value, and therefore your taxes, stay heavily shielded inside that bubble. So, every August, you'll receive this thing called a Truth in Millage, or TRIM, notice in the mail. When you get it, you want to locate the specific market value line. This is that just value we just talked about. It's the appraiser's estimate of your property as of January 1st. Now, if this number looks completely out of touch with reality, well, you might just have some really strong grounds for an appeal. Moving on to Section 2, how assessments actually work. Now that you know exactly where to look on your notice, let's pull back the curtain on how the county actually calculates these numbers. By law, specifically Section 193.011 of the Florida statutes, appraisers can't just guess your home's value or pull a number out of thin air. They're legally required to consider 8 specific statutory factors. This covers everything from the present cash value and highest and best use, all the way down to the property's size, condition, and the cost to replace it. And yes, they even have to factor in the condition of that retro 1970s pink tile bathroom you just haven't gotten around to remodeling yet. The point is, if the appraiser got any of these factual elements wrong, their entire calculation is fundamentally flawed. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, reasons to file an appeal. If you look at that notice and you completely disagree with their math, you need to take action. But you've got to know exactly when to push back. You should seriously consider appealing if you spot glaring factual errors on your property record card. We're talking things like the wrong square footage, or maybe a demolished pool is still being listed. You should also definitely appeal if you were wrongly denied a homestead, portability, or agricultural classification. And finally, if your assessed value is sitting right at or even very close to your just value, a successful market value appeal is going to directly lower your tax bill. And hey, you always want to double-check the assessment reductions and exemptions section on your notice. You need to verify that all your rightful exemptions are actually being applied. If your valid homestead exemption or a senior benefit is magically missing from this section, you are paying significantly more than you legally owe. All right, let's say you found a mistake. Section 4, Step-by-Step VAB Appeal Guide. The VAB is the Value Adjustment Board, and it's the independent body where you're going to make your case. The whole appeal process basically boils down to 4 main steps: gathering your evidence, filing the petition, preparing for the hearing, and then navigating those post-hearing steps. Let's walk through exactly how to tackle each one. Steps 1 and 2 are all about speed and precision. Get this, you have a super strict 25-day deadline from the mailing of your TRIM notice to file your petition. If you miss this, you completely lose your right to appeal for the entire year. So you'll file the form, pay a maximum fee of $50 per parcel, and start gathering concrete evidence. And I mean solid data. Recent arm's-length sales of comparable properties, clear photographs of property damage, or professional appraisal reports. You need hard data here, not just an opinion. Now for steps 3 and 4, preparation is literally everything. You can't just show up with a stock of papers on the day of your hearing. Actually, at least 15 days before your hearing, you must provide your list of evidence to the property appraiser. After that, you'll present your case to a special magistrate. They're an independent expert appointed by the VAB. If you crush it and succeed, they'll recommend a decision that could save you thousands. And hey, even if you're denied, you still have options to appeal further in circuit court. Moving right along to Section 5, Tools to Help You Win. Listen, you did not have to figure this all out in the dark. There are some incredibly helpful resources right at your fingertips. For starters, your local county property appraiser's website is an absolute goldmine for pulling comparable property records. The Department of Revenue also offers the Uniform Policies Manual and the exact PT-101 petition form you're going to need, which makes the paperwork surprisingly straightforward. You can also look up the specific VAB operating rules, and honestly, if the stakes are high enough, don't hesitate to reach out to local tax consultants or attorneys who specialize in this exact process. And that brings us to our final instructional segment, Section 6, Pro Tips for Appeal Success. Before you submit a single piece of paperwork, keep these insider strategies in mind. First off, meet all strict statutory deadlines. I can't stress this enough, there is zero grace period here. Second, a really cool trick is that you can actually request an informal conference with the property appraiser at any time. This might resolve the issue with a counterchange before a formal hearing is even needed. Lastly, remember the legal standard. You have to prove the assessment wrong by a preponderance of the evidence. You can't just walk in and say, my taxes are too high, man. You have to prove their valuation data is flat out incorrect. But hey, here is a massive reality check. You need to hear about the 2 rules trap. Remember that Save Our Homes cushion we talked about? Well, if your assessed value is already heavily cushioned way below the market value, winning a market value appeal might just lower the just value on paper, but leave your capped assessed value completely unchanged. So always do the math first to see if a win actually equals an immediate tax cut for you. So when August rolls around and those trim notices hit your mailbox, I really want you to ask yourself, are you leaving thousands of dollars on the table by simply tossing that piece of mail into a drawer? Taking just 5 minutes to carefully check those numbers could honestly be the most profitable 5 minutes of your entire year. Just a quick reminder before we wrap up. While this explainer is a comprehensive guide, Florida's tax laws are pretty complex, and they do change. Always consult a legal or tax professional for your own unique situation. But I'll leave you with this final thought. Every single year, local governments kind of count on homeowners being too intimidated or too busy to challenge their math. So the real question is, are you going to let them keep your money this year, or are you going to take back control? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.